Welcome back to Booze, Bros, and Cars, your favorite podcast about booze and cars. We are your hosts. I'm Eric.
Mike.
I'm Carmelo.
And I'm Nick.
All right, first up, we're going to talk about what we're drinking. So I actually am going to be drinking a couple beers tonight. So first one that I have is from Tripping Animals. The art on it is actually kind of interesting. It's from Avatar. This one is called Family is Our Fortress. It is a soda-inspired sour ale conditioned with blueberry and lemon, and it's 6%. So pretty interested to try this one. Tripping Animals is actually really good. They're located in Doral, Florida, if anybody's interested. They're actually really good. Second beer I'm going to be drinking is another sour that kind of caught my attention. It's a fruit punch sour ale, and it's called Oh Yeah. It's from
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's from Magnifying Brewing, and it is from Fairfield, New Jersey. I know we have a Jersey local here,
Okay.
so I'm interested. I'm interested to try this one out. It's a 6% sour, so I'm interested to.
I promise you, there are some good things that come from Jersey, aside from myself. So
I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are. All right, Mike, you want to talk about what you're drinking tonight?
Yeah. So tonight I'm trying the new Hop Silo 22 from Tampa Bay Brewing Company. This one is a collaboration with Finback Brewing, which I had never heard of them before, but they're actually out of Glendale, New York. So Hop Silo is a rotating New England IPA predominantly series from Tampa Bay Brewing Company, obviously from the Tampa area in Florida. This is a hazy IPA. It's got a whole bunch of hops in it. Azaka, Brute, Sultana, Idaho 7, YCH, Citra Hop Oil 702. So
damn.
gonna go hoppy tonight. So
It's gonna be very.
Carmelo, what are you sipping on?
All right. So going from your, hoppy drink, something that we all love. I don't know if you guys will admit it or not, but I got the dessert station from Corporate Ladder here in Palmetto, Florida. One of my favorites. Nice, thick, very dessert style, very little sweet, not so hoppy. Yeah, nice and thick. But it's a great brewery. We've Eric and I've been there a couple times together. I've been there numerous times. Just good people, real chill. Supporting a semi-local business or brewery. So yeah, that's what I got. What do you got tonight, Nick?
So, as always, two things. I'll touch on the one that's going to be like my second half drink. Buddy of mine that I work with is from the Cleveland area. Was up there visiting, and when the wife came back later with a vehicle that she drove down, she brought some beer back, and one that he got for me and my wife. So it's from Masthead Brewing Company in Cleveland. It is a
I've heard of them.
it's a double jalapeno, double IPA. It is. I'll admit I had one last night. It is very forward on the jalapeno flavor. It is not too hoppy or bitter. It's actually pretty smooth. If I had any complaint, it's actually that there's not really any heat. I was expecting a little bit of a kick from that jalapeno, and I didn't really get it. But the flavor is spot on. I mean, it's a solid jalapeno flavor.
Nice.
The other doesn't look anything special. You can't tell, but talked about the Harry Potter thing before. There's a golden snitch ice cube in there. But this is basically a margarita. I don't do the salt nonsense with my wife and all that kind of stuff. But it's a virtually clear margarita. Actually, until you shake it in ice, it is perfectly clear. We're just using some simple 1800 tequila, typical Cointreau. The difference is, rather than lime juice or a sour mix or any margarita mix, is this funky stuff that we found, right? So it's called Super Sour. It's got a bunch of Japanese writing and stuff on it, but it's actually a product of Belgium. We found this my wife found this on a TikTok or an Instagram reel of this bartender guy that she follows that makes some crazy drinks. It's a clear bartender's mix for citrus. They call it seriously sour cocktail mixer. And for sour and citrusy as it is, it doesn't give me the heartburn that the lime juices do and stuff like that. And you can't find it almost anywhere without ordering online and paying an obscene amount of money. Because we talk about local people, our local beer shop, oddly enough, number 3 bottle shop, had a relationship with the guys that distribute this down here in Florida, and was able to get me a case of it. First bottle's almost gone after about a week and a half. It's some pretty cool stuff. So I'll send Eric a link. We'll post a link up too for anyone who wants to look into this stuff because it's very unique, hard to get, great mixer if you like sour.
Oh yeah. I
So,
actually.
Nick, your wife's giving you margaritas? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's she delivered the second drink for me. Give me
You know,
one
there's like a
margarita,
TikTok
right?
song.
Something like that. Yeah.
Oh god! Just don't go
Yeah,
after
this-
3. I think it goes bad after
This is
3 or 4.
this is about 2 margaritas at least in here. So when I get off camera, it'll be a third and a fourth maybe.
No. I don't think you want to go 4. I think after 4, it's. But you do you, bro.
Yeah, we'll see.
I do want to give a shout out real quick to Brandon at number 3. Man, that place is so awesome. Love that place. I mean, it's somewhere that we regularly go to. At least like what we try to go there like once or twice a month. Awesome place.
Typically,
We got to get in there this week.
Yeah.
We do. We have to talk to Brandon and see if we can record the podcast in there one day. It'll be kind of cool. Be awesome to kind of give them a shout
That would
out.
be
We
cool.
can make that happen.
To show them.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right. So, getting into automotive stuff this week, or actually that happened today. We're gonna talk about Formula One real quick, or Formula Verstappen is how I like to call it because Red Bull and Verstappen is dominating. they're dominating.
I mean, it's good if you look
the-
look at second to the end, second to 20.
They are. But they're dominating this season, which is crazy. And but Verstappen, so Carmelo, I'm sure you saw the race, which is interesting. Or it's interesting, but it's cool to see Verstappen starting off in a position where he's not used to starting, which is P6, and then after 17 laps, he got back to P1. But I think it was 7 laps in, he passed Leclerc and Hamilton, and he was like in second place. He was P2 behind Checo.
Paris. Yeah, I think it was like 3 seconds back. One of the things, and I heard this all over, Sky Sports and some other places. Max has started 12th, 14th, 16th, and still made a podium, if not first. So I don't understand why they were hyper focused on this, P6 spot as one of his favorite tracks, or one of the tracks he does very well at. I just don't understand. It's
I am going to take a step back and say that they were actually racing today at Spa. So Spa is really iconic with that. What is that corner called? Eau Rouge. That corner is just ridiculous.
Eau Rouge,
it's so awesome. Yeah, but man, like that guy, like it makes like every race that I see him running, it makes you realize how like he's like literally a machine when it comes to him driving. Like when he's behind the driver's seat or like behind the steering wheel of that car, he is a literal machine. Like his lap times are so consistent. They're within what like 200th or 300th of a second off like from each other. Like that's
typically
crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And like the gap that he can actually put out between every driver is insane because like right at the end he was 22 seconds ahead of Checo, which is insane.
Yeah, no, it was insane. He's a great driver. Even when he had, I don't remember what lap it was, but he had a little scare going through the Turn d'Eau Rouge while it was raining, and next lap consistent. There was nothing. He on slicks, it was damp. It wasn't. They didn't call for intermediate tires, but it was surprising. Something that I do want to cover, even though I'm a huge Red Bull fan, big Max fan, been for years. When he was the underdog, I want to talk about McLaren. Lando Norris, came off 2 P2s the past 2 weeks, and this week he went off, was it in qualifying? I think it was quali, or it was in practice. He went off, damaged the underbody. But Piastri, P2, quali, phenomenal job. Even yesterday, the sprints for me are kind of weird.
Yeah, they kind of work.
I'm not. I think for when you buy tickets, it's great. You get 2 full days of racing, right? You get qualifying Friday, you get practice Friday, qualifying Friday, then you get the sprint qualifying, a sprint race. I mean, you're getting value for the ticket. But as far as a regular fan watching from TV, I'm still on the fence about it. But Piastri, phenomenal job yesterday, coming in P2 at the race, and at the end of the race. Great job. And, today, everybody's been kind of talking about him and Norris and McLaren. I think Piastri's showing his promise, but I don't know if you saw turn one. He turned into Sergio Perez. It
Yeah,
was Hamilton on the outside, Perez, and he went for a hole that wasn't there, basically, and then got on the radio and, oh, he didn't see me, act like I wasn't there. He had no right to, that corner in P1, in that first turn. Obviously, he
yeah,
might not have seen everything going
I
on.
agree.
His driver awareness needs to go up a little
He
bit, but
definitely
he
got a
does show
little
promise. He's just not as good.
Yeah, he got a little overzealous into turn one, and he clipped Carlos Sainz and
Carlos Sainz,
pretty
sorry.
much damaged his car, like where he had that hole in the side pod, and that kind of
in the side pod.
ruined, like the aerodynamics and everything. So yeah, he definitely got a little overzealous, and he kind of ruined the race for himself and for Carlos Sainz as well. So.
So for those of us that haven't been, paying attention to F1, what exactly are the sprints? Just some short little runs they're doing, some lesser lap, lesser time kind of stuff. Like what's up with those?
Yeah.
What's different?
So they're about an hour. It's basically a mini race. So I think it was scheduled to be 20 laps, 22 laps, almost half distance, just under half distance. And basically, so they can make it on one set of tires, just an all-out shootout without having any real strategy
balls of the
other than
wall.
your starting tire.
Yeah.
So I read this.
Higher lap times or lower lap times.
Didn't I read this year that they like doubled the amount of sprints that they're doing per season as well? Something like that. Like they're going from 3 to 6.
I believe it's 3. No, I think they've only done. I think they only planned 3, and I might not be 100% on that.
I thought I read
the
somewhere,
FIA
but
is
I had the
pretty
same question as Nick because I didn't understand what the sprints were versus the regular races.
Are they getting points out of the sprints, or is it just purely for fan fun?
Yep. So the sprints, so the top 8, and the top 8 get up 8 points. First 8, second 7, then it's descending from there to 8th place getting 1 point. Last year, I kind of like the format better. Last year, essentially, you qualified, you went into the sprints based off your qualification for the race, and then and then the ending of the sprint resulted in your starting position on the race. Where this year, it's almost like a whole separate mini race, its own separate qualifying, and it seems to be taxing, on the teams, especially with them losing a tire and some other a tire option, going from 13 sets to 12 and a couple other. It's just different. I'm not the biggest fan of change. We've all seen what happened in NASCAR when they started messing around with their championship and their races, and that's the last thing I want to see for F1 as they're getting bigger and bigger and getting fan support.
Yeah.
Especially
it's just nice to see them get fan support and get more support because racing, seems to all in all not be as popular a sport in the U.S. anymore since NASCAR. Like I said, since NASCAR started changing when Toyota got into it, and it wasn't a big 3 anymore. That's when everything I think started to change, and it's there was definitely a pickup of some fans, but I feel like an all in all decline to the fan base and what people were hoping and expecting to see. But I get it; it's for safety, a lot of things and stuff like that. But it's almost like it's gotten too bureaucratic and political with a lot of things.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's gotten away from, NASCAR. I remember, I guess when we were kids and even older, they were, at least the cars, the bodies were based off of whatever the Ford, the Chevy was, the Dodge or the Pontiac of that era. Now, it's just basically front and rear bumpers. I think they've gotten a little better over the past few years, but other than decals, you wouldn't be able to tell which vehicle it is.
Yeah,
and I think that's kind of pushed a lot of fans off. On top of, like you said, everything else that the hierarchy of NASCAR is doing, pushing,
right. Like I
unintentionally
think
pushing fans away.
Yeah, I think IMSA and WC have proven that with BOP, you can make the car look like whatever the hell you want it to look like and run fairly.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think
I mean, even IMSA and
oh, go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead, Eric. No, I was just going to touch on the fact that IMSA and WEC are kind of doing the same thing these days, though. Pushing the fans out slightly. It's still a very fan based sport, but that's a lot of its money these days. Which I get. These teams are out there spending a lot, so they need to have some sort of return on their investment. But it is getting tougher and tougher. We all go to Sebring every year for the 12-hour race, as we've talked about in the first episode. But there's been a lot of changes there, just overall, in the fan base.
Yeah.
But Eric, you were about to touch on something.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Kind of going back to Formula One, like we've actually seen an increase of fans in the United States thanks to Netflix, which I feel like that kind of has helped their fan base here in the U.S. because I mean it has become like a popular show, but I feel like they kind of over dramatize a lot of things that actually happened. Like the whole thing back in 21 where Max beat Hamilton in Formula One in the very last race in Abu Dhabi. They over dramatized everything. I mean, like obviously it was a very tense moment for both teams, for Red Bull and for Mercedes, but I feel like they made it more dramatic than what it really was. Because at the end of the race, like Hamilton was very disappointed with the outcome of the race, but they made it seem a lot worse than what it really was, if that makes any sense. So I feel like they kind of
I mean, the drama is what sells. It's the media and everything, whether it's real life currently going on live or post.
Yeah, and I was actually just gonna say that. I mean, like drama sells, unfortunately, but anyways, moving on. Still touching the points about Red Bull. Let's talk about the Red Bull car. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, let me see if I can pull it up here. I have the Motor Trend slide up, and I know this kind of. Let me see if I can share screen here.
This is the 25 or 2026 or whatever it is they just debuted.
2026. Yep, it's the. Let me know if you guys see this on your screen.
Yep,
it's popping up.
Yep, so it's the 2026 Red Bull RB17. Their $6.2 million hypercar. So I mean, it's pretty crazy. Red Bull has done a lot of been in a lot of racing syndicates over the years, and I know they've done some racing stuff in the past. I really think it's cool that they're kind of going to come out with this. I know they've done some previous stuff in the past, and I know Carmelo, you know a little bit more about this than I do because we've talked about it in a previous, just previously. Yeah. But they, previously were with the Aston Martin Valkyrie. So I don't know if you know any of the details on that, but I'm going to stop sharing the screen so we can discuss.
So. Yeah, I mean, Adrian Newey is a phenomenal aero, mastermind. Been in Formula One or in various forms of racing for over 30 years. His designs are phenomenal. He's spot on almost every time. With that being said, earlier this week, Red Bull Advanced Technologies actually put out an announcement. So Adrian Newey, obviously the chief technical officer of Oracle Red Bull Racing and Red Bull Advanced Technologies. This is his design. Essentially, all of it is his. What he wants to do. What Red Bull is saying is that it's going to be a V8 hybrid engine over 1,100 horsepower. There is pricing starts at $5 million, and I'm going to just assume, there's going to be options to make it as unique as you want. But there's only going to be 50 editions or 50 units made.
50 units made.
Is this going to be like the Valkyrie, where it's track only, or is this going to be a street legal race car?
So
no, it is not. It is not supposed to be street legal from what they've announced.
Okay. No.
So,
and the other cool thing with this too is when you buy it, you're not only buying the car, but you're getting access to Red Bull's racing's simulators, their vehicle program development, on-track training, and the RB17 will be supported directly by the factory with service, maintenance, and everything there for the vehicle. So you're almost buying in to the company, basically it's basically a lease of a race car that they're going to handle everything.
I think that's what the Valkyrie basically was. I don't think with the simulators and stuff, but I know they had servicing and all that on track and stuff. So I mean, if you got the money, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, I would assume that. Yeah, they did the 599 XX.
Yeah.
And
I believe didn't Mercedes do that with the Mercedes McLaren too? I heard about that a while ago.
They had a limited edition. I don't believe that was track only. The Mercedes did come out with the one, which everybody anticipated. Yep. It's a closed cockpit F1 derived vehicle, but that is street legal. where the RB17, this Red Bull we're speaking of, that is not.
So, do we think with only 50 models being made of this, 50 units, do we think that there has future for Red Bull to kind of incorporate this into some sort of sanctioned racing, whether it be IMSA and endurance, whether it be kind of filter it in somewhere? I mean, it seems like this would be a big leap out there for 2026 without having any actual racing going on with it. What are your thoughts?
Jumping into WEC actually, because I mean, like a lot of like Oracle Red Bull racing, it is like in the United States and stuff like that. So I feel like I can see them doing that, but mostly with WEC because a lot of WEC is European and Asian racing.
Yeah. So I don't know the rules for IMSA and WEC, but a lot of these series require a car like that to be a production model to represent in the race, which like the Huracan and the C8 Vets and all those things are, right? The 599 or whatever the hell Ferrari's racing now.
Right, the current model.
Right. So if you're talking about a car, they're only going to build 50 of them. They're not street legal. Is that considered a production car? So that would be my question if they want to make that jump. I think it would be awesome to see it, but
I mean, it's also going to be way overpowered. Twin turbo hybrid is way more powerful than anything else in the IMSA WEC circuit.
You also have to remember that a lot of those now are becoming hybrid V8s and stuff like that. Yeah. And look at like the Vets they're running. The Vets they're running are tuned down with smaller engines.
Most of them are.
Vets. So it's no big deal for them to just crank things down and find a way to retune it and balance out the power and torque delivery. It'd be interesting to see how they do it, but
so for the homologation, I think that's what you're touching on is a production car needing, for the old FIA rules, those 500 units had to be sold. Yep. I'm not seeing it as that, and it'd be interesting. I could see them doing, entrance to Le Mans in what is that garage? Is it Garage 54? Whatever the Camaro came through
56.
this year. 56. I could see them doing something like that, but you got to remember in these sanctioned sports, whether it's WEC, DTM, they all have all the chassis and everything has to be made a specific way for that contest for those events. So I don't, unless there's more to it that they haven't shared yet, I'm not seeing it. I think it's just going to be a track toy / art piece that people are going to have in their houses, in their garages, and it's just going to appreciate.
It's not going to be the next. It's not going to be the next like GT3 Porsche, basically all over the streets and on the racetrack.
Yeah.
So
for sure,
that's a shame.
So
it's a shame. It's honestly a shame.
In regards to the horsepower,
what's that, Eric?
I know that you said that it's a bit much. It's like 1,100 horsepower.
Yeah, 1,100 is what Red Bull's is. Red Bull saying was hybrid.
So I actually saw something today where you guys know the manufacturer is Zenvo. They have that really weird, funky hypercar.
Yeah, Shmi.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes. So they came out. Like I saw a news report today, like on Instagram, that they're building another car, and it's a quad turbo V12 with over 1,200 horsepower, and it's supposed to be the highest horsepower production vehicle on the market so far when that car gets released. Aside,
well, I mean, look at the
turbos and less cylinders than a Bugatti.
I was gonna say, look at the Bugatti. I mean, the Veyron, the Chiron was W16, but
yeah. It could have been the highest horsepower V12 that's out in the market, but dude, like quad turbo V12, like that thing is insane. Like, imagine the noises and the boost, like the boost pressure that thing's gonna be building up, like and like when it's gonna be driving, it's gonna be insane.
I think I'd still choose the Hennessy Venom F5 over that.
I think those look pretty cool.
Yeah, that is. Well, we always talk about that in like fast cars and stuff, and hearing John Hennessy talk to Rogan on his podcast and be like, yeah, no, we don't measure 0 to 60s. Fast cars aren't 0 to 60. Fast cars are 0 to 250. And they're talking about it. He's like, well, what does this car do? And he's like, oh, well, our Hennessy Venom F5 does 0 to 250 in 15 and a half seconds. It's like, what?
Wow,
stupid.
Holy shit. Well, because the old Hennessy Venom or whatever it was called was based, I think, off of like
Venom
a
GT.
Lotus.
Yeah, it was off the Lotus release.
Yeah, now this thing is like true, like monocoque, custom built. The engine they created all themselves from the ground up, and I think it's like 1,800 horsepower, twin turbo, big boy V8. But that's insane. That's absolutely nuts.
It was what, like a Lotus Elise or a Lotus Exceed extended with an LS7, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to say it was an Elise.
I think it was.
Out Elise.
I think it was an Elise. Yeah, and they elongated the frame to fit the motor in it.
Yeah.
But so let's circle back to this Red Bull car real quick and just touch on what are your thoughts on who's going to be the engine manufacturer for this, because we know Red Bull's not going to produce their own motor.
So Red Bull right now is working with Honda powertrains. And so with that being said, I know we talked in the past and their collaboration with Ford starting in 2025 and ending with Honda. I have a feeling it's going to be an F1 engine that's going to be, full open, no restrictions. Obviously, under the FIA rules, they have certain restrictions and certain power thresholds that they got to stay within. So I'm going to guess this is going to be a variation of their current engine of either last year or the year before that's going to make its way into production. Obviously, it's not going to be anything current gen because they wouldn't, most F1 teams would never release that to the public. But it would have been. I know we talked in the past about maybe like a Coyote or something, which would have been crazy, but I just don't. I think it's going to be a variation of what they're building now.
I agree with you.
I mean, so wait, when does their contract with Ford start?
25.
And this car's slated to be a 26? I can't imagine Ford would be okay with them running a Honda engine in a car that they are now partnered with.
So the issue with that and how they're going to get around it is mid last year, Honda announced that they were no longer going to go forward with racing. They had a new CEO who wanted to go, I don't want to say green, but he wanted to go more fuel economy, didn't see the return on investment from the F1, engine management or engine building. So they sold the majority of IP to Red Bull powertrains. So right now, if you look at one of their if you look at a Red Bull car, it does have like Honda powertrains on it. But what happened was Red Bull assumed, all of that equipment. They purchased the equipment from Honda. They took certain key employees. So while it's going to be Honda derived, it's almost going to be like what you saw back with the Taurus SHO, that it's going to have a Yamaha engine that's going to be stamped Ford. I could see them stamping it whatever, but it's just going to. It'd be crazy for them to build but an enclosed F1 car and then deviate from what they're doing now.
I get that. It's actually kind of sad to hear when you talk about Honda, because it's just another classic JDM company like Mazda just saying, hey, F you guys, we don't want to do the fun stuff anymore that you guys all love. And, if it doesn't tell you that the S2000 is never coming back and the Zoom for Mazda is never coming back, it's disappointing to hear another big name getting out.
So this is the crazy thing. Honda, I believe they signed a contract with another team or they're in talks. Okay. So the CEO that made this decision, I believe, was voted out, was removed or resigned, what have you. He's no longer associated with the company. And so while everything was going on, they lost the winning team that gave them their first driver's championship in, I think, 20 plus years. So Honda kind of was sleeping on how good they had it. Ford came in and was like, yeah, we'll give you whatever you want. And Ford locked up a deal within, I think, 3 or 4 months of the season where Honda was on the table, but Honda was just taking their time and,
Well, I feel like Honda was kind of, I don't know, maybe a little flash in the pan kind of thing. Because, dude, when I first started getting into IMSA, you didn't hear anything about them. It was all about Cadillac and, GM and stuff. And then all of a sudden, dude, they joined up with the Patron race team. And I'm pretty sure they blew everyone out of the water at Sebring that year. I mean, it was insane. And then that was kind of the last thing you really heard.
You got to think they also do a lot of other sanction racing. Like I mean, one of the other ones that happens in Sebring every year is the Continental Sports Car Challenge, and they were always in sports car racing, always. Whether it was whether it was the Civics, the Integras. I mean, Honda always had something running in all those things, and like you said earlier, it's just
private teams. I think
absolutely.
Factory. So
you could buy. I mean, you could buy it's just like buying a spec Miata from Mazda. You could buy a spec Civic that's roll caged out, completely gutted. Got all the bits inside that you need to run the car. But it's just like you said. Mazda kind of bailing on the enthusiasts, and now hearing that from Honda, it's just it's sad, man. It just makes you wonder what the next 10, 20 years is going to look like for racing in general. So.
Yeah, it will definitely be interesting to see. Ford came out of the blue, came out of nowhere. there is speculation of a new team coming in with Cadillac. I don't know if it's Andretti, but Cadillac came in expressing interest in being having two cars on the field for F1. And within, I think, 3 weeks or 4 weeks of Andretti and Cadillac kind of being put together, Ford signed a deal with Red Bull. And it was very hush-hush. I mean, I'm a huge F1 fan and follow news. Nobody knew about it. But out of the blue, you have possibly Cadillac joining 2025 or 26. And again, that's tentative. But Ford coming in and saying, hey, we'll pay whatever. Let's get this contract signed. And unfortunately, Honda's losing out.
So one thing that I'm really interested in, because
hey,
a lot of those Formula One cars, they sound ridiculous in a good way, of course. But actually, one thing I did notice, Carmelo, did you notice that the Williams cars sound significantly different than the rest of the fields? Like, they sound stupid good.
I noticed Albon's car.
Yeah.
I didn't hear Sargent. I mean, unfortunately, the American driver doesn't get a lot of time. He's still learning. But, he's a backmarker car. But Albon, was flying this weekend up until his first pit stop. And I didn't really notice. I'm a fan of the older V12s. I don't know if you guys have ever heard a V12 F1 car, but it's glorious. Then they switched to these.
The V10s sound amazing.
The V10s, the V12s, I mean, just blaring down the straight. But, these new hybrids, I think they're don't quote me, I believe they're 6-cylinder hybrids, maybe 8-cylinder hybrids, like 1.6, tiny displacement, twin-turbo hybrid engines.
Yeah, they're 1.6 liter six bangers, and they are twin turbo or single turbo, twin turbo. But I'm into
6-cylinder, 1.6 liter. That's crazy.
And that was the FIA trying to go green a few years ago.
Golly, I mean, we're talking
14,
pistons.
15.
Like,
We can easily fit one of those in the Miata, Mike.
I know. Well, hey, man, come on, Hyundai, get into F1. Let's go.
Dude, I wouldn't sleep on that.
I mean, speaking of Hyundai, deviating a little bit, the Goodwood Festival, Hyundai's bringing they're bringing some good cars. I've always been, I've always kind of joked about, how Kanye said in that song, like win a Super Bowl driving off in a Hyundai. But I mean, look at what they're doing in the EV market. They're bringing stuff out of the N division. Nick, you might know a little bit more because you used to work for them, but this new car that they're bringing out, is it the Iconic 5?
Ionic. Yeah,
the Ionic 5.
The Ionic 5
and
and 6. 6 is coming right behind that, which is the SUV version of it.
Well,
but the 5 was doing donuts and,
so the 5 is the SUV. It's basically, the way to look at it is it's the exterior size of a modern Hyundai Tucson, but it has the interior size because of the flat bottom for the battery packs and the way the seats are configured. It's almost got the interior space of a third row Palisade. So it's deceptively large and open. But now here they are rolling out with, they've got the Elantra end, the Veloster end is technically dead now. The Kona end's still out there, but that's probably coming to an end soon. And they were like, well, hey, exactly. And they're like, let's do something super fun with the EV. Let's be the enthusiast brand. Between them and Kia, because they're all owned by Hyundai Global. They want to be the fun brands because Kia's got 2 sister cars coming out to the Ionic versions. Actually, the one's out already, the EV6 and the EV6 GT is rolling out. And now you got the Ionic 5N. But what's crazy is, right, they've all got these, they call it the N-Grin shift mode or wherever, where it forces, whether it's gas or electric car, it forces like the torque and the power up a little bit for a little extra boost and a little extra strain on the drivetrain. But this new Ionic 5N is a small SUV electric with 641 horsepower and something pretty up there in the torque. I can't remember off the top of my head. And what's crazy is it's got a bunch of cool drive modes. Like for Eric, I mean, one of them is literally a drift mode where you can put it into drift mode and just start ripping this thing around a track sideways, rear wheels only. I mean, it's pretty wild.
Because I'm the drifting fanboy here in the group. Is that why you're mentioning it?
Well,
I mean,
that's exactly what he's doing.
Do you guys remember in I'm pretty sure it was Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift when Han said, "What you think? You think I'm going to let you roll out of here in a Hyundai?" Well, come on, like they didn't have this. They didn't have this back then. So
I think Hyundai heard that and was like, "Yo, shots fired." All right, we
yeah.
got you.
Well, making strides, man. You know, and Hyundai used to be a Buster brand, but they're not no more.
And
now
so
they're
many
making
people
fun
don't
cars.
realize they don't realize the power and money that Hyundai has. They're one of, if not the largest logistics and heavy machinery companies in the world.
Speaking of which, you know what's funny? Working for a beer wholesaler, I see a lot of trucks backing up. Do you want to know the number one trailer that I see in our yards?
They're Hyundai now. Yeah.
Every single one of them. It's crazy.
when you see a lot of the really large ships that bring cars over from the other continents, they're usually built by Hyundai. Yeah, wow. It's insane. People don't realize it, and not over here because we're in a big train country, but in other countries, trains, a lot of heavy equipment and machinery. They are in a lot of things. So when people wonder where the hell they come from, they have a lot of money and a lot of power to do things. And one of the cool things when I worked from it, I learned that was really stood out to me, right, is people like, it's POS, it doesn't have good quality. They're pretty dedicated to their quality to the point where they mine and store their own ore in special silos and then actually melt it down and make their own steel for their cars. They don't trust anybody else to do it. They want to do it all themselves. So, and I'm sure with Genesis, that's grown even more. So yeah, they're getting their own ore. They're specially storing it. They're smelting it. They're creating their own steel for their chassis and their bodies to control as much of the aspect as possible. And now here they are out there with these chassis on these little launchers and stuff that people drive, and they're like, "Holy shit, that's awesome!" You know, I had an instructor drive my G70 at autocross, and although I have coilovers on it, he came out of a 3 Series and came right into my G7. He was like, "This is the better chassis." Like, no questions about it. It's not sloppy. It's tight. It's stiff. It handles phenomenally. And even though it's a tiny 2-liter turbo, because I got the manual transmission, he loved it. And this guy drives a C8 Vet and was like, "This thing's awesome." And the ventilated seats on a hot day in Florida was great. Yeah, it was Craig.
Okay. I thought for some reason I thought you had what was that other guy's name that I was kind of hoping he would be an instructor. He drives the FRS. I forgot his name.
Oh, Mike.
Dude, Mike is such a good driver. He's such a good driver.
So he was my instructor the first time I went, and then Craig was my instructor the second time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. But anyways, kind of going back to what my question was, like with the whole Formula 1 and 4 thing, I'm very interested to actually hear how that motor sounds when it actually is implemented in the Red Bull car. Because the biggest thing about Formula 1 cars is their exhaust sounds. And how Carmelo said earlier, the V10s and the V12s sound phenomenal. I mean, like the V6 turbo motors, they sound really good, but I'm really interested to actually hear how that motor is going to sound.
But, the 6 cylinders, they have gotten better sounding, or we're just getting used to them. When they switch, I'll never forget. You know,
we're getting used to them.
They came by and it was like the diesels when we were at IMSA. They came by and they were quiet. Yeah. You know, you're like,
the Mazda
where's the car?
It was like the weirdest sounding thing, but it sounded so good.
I know it was so weird. Yeah. Well, it's like when the C6 Corvettes or C7 Corvettes went away for the C8. I mean, the noise is just not the same, but it's still good. It's good noise. It's just different noise, you know.
Yeah.
But, well, do you guys want to do a recap on what you think your beverages you're having? Sure. I think it's about time we talk about our beers. So, Eric, why don't you start us off?
So right now I'm drinking the Oh Yeah. I expected it to taste a lot more like Kool-Aid. You can taste it, but it's not all there. It tastes more sour than what it does anything, which I'm kind of not surprised because it is a sour beer. But the Tripping Animals beer, the family is our fortress. It was phenomenal. It tasted really good. It tasted more like of a blueberry lemonade soda, which is actually what it actually is supposed to taste like. So it tasted phenomenally. But I mentioned before, Tripping Animals is one of my favorite breweries. They're located in Doral, Florida. Just within Miami city limits. Great place. I've been there a few times. I've tried multiple beers, and it's weird because you guys know me. Like, I'm not huge into sour beers, but Tripping Animals actually got me into sour beers because all of their sour beers are top tier. They're phenomenal. They're actually the ones that actually put me into sour beers. And the first time that I tried their beer was actually at number 3. I went there one time. I don't think you guys were there. My cousin was up here from Miami. and we grabbed food at Nice Guys, which is another really great place to go to, which is right across the street from number three. Um, and they had I wish I remember the name of the beer, but it was like a chocolate beer, and that beer was what sparked my interest to them, to Tripping Animals, because it literally tasted like like a chocolate bar was melted into beer, and it tasted like a chocolate bar. It was phenomenal. So ever since then, I've loved Tripping Animals. Like I said, I've gone to the brewery maybe 3 or 4 times, maybe in the past like year and a half, when I've gone down to Miami and visit my cousin and visit my family. But we got to make a trip down there. Like they have phenomenal beer, and there's a few other breweries I want to try out, and I feel like you guys will actually like it too. So
there's a lot of good beer over there.
yeah, yeah. Mike, do you want to talk about what you're drinking?
Yeah, I'm going to touch on yours though too. So sour beers can be very polarizing. I know Nick's wife is a huge sour beer fan, but a lot of sours, traditional sours, if you will, that are kind of true to their heritage, can be very, very tart. Like feel it in your pucker your sides of your jaw, like chewing on an airhead, like
Like a warhead.
super super tart. A lot of the sours coming out these days from multiple breweries, not even in the state of Florida, but across the country, they're kind of getting wild. They're adding lactose. They're adding a lot of adjuncts to them, fresh fruit puree, stuff like that, and it tends to cut the tartness down a little bit. You might still get some essence of it, but it's there's a lot of fruit going on. Like I know Corporate Ladder's one that also does really really phenomenal sours, but a lot of times they're really not even sour. It's like drinking juice, but yeah, they're really good. So once again, I'm drinking the Hop Silo 22. As you can guess by the name, this is their 22nd rendition of their Hop Silo series. Predominantly collaboration beers of different breweries from across the country, not only in the state of Florida. But this is really good. So hazy IPAs generally are less bitter than your average American IPA, or even East Coast IPA. But a hazy and a New England IPA, East Coast, are kind of the same thing. Less bitter. I get a lot of kind of grapefruit, citrus, stone fruit, almost like tropical fruit flavors from it. It's also really really fresh. I think they canned this like a couple weeks ago, maybe. So it's very, very fresh by comparison to a lot of things, but it's very good. Would definitely recommend.
Nice having that plug so close to home.
Yeah, exactly. It's good. It's good to know people.
Yeah.
I kind of want to interrupt, and so I've talked to you guys quite a bit about something that I've done before in the past, which is going to Sierra Nevada up in Asheville, North Carolina. I feel like we should really go one day, because you can do a tour. It used to be a free tour, and now it's paid. I think it's only like $8 per person, which is really not that bad to do a tour of their factory. And then at the end, you can actually do like a taste test. But you mentioned something, Mike, that actually really caught my interest, and it reminded me of the tour, which is all the different types of hops that are in the beer. And it's cool because in Sierra Nevada, obviously, I'm sure every brewery has this, but with Sierra Nevada, it's so amazing to actually be able to see this. But they actually have a hops room, and they have like 10 or 15 different types of hops that are just like sitting in there. And the cool thing is that they actually hand you like different types of hops, and they'll tell you.
Oh yeah, you grind them up in your hand.
Yeah. They'll tell you to grind it up in your hand and smell it. And, dude, it smells so good. It smells amazing. So, anyways,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt. I just kind of had to throw that out there.
No, not at all, man. That's it's one of my it's what I do. But yeah,
Eric,
it's fun.
is it that skunky smell that you seem to like?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
We're gonna move on.
Well, if we do go to North Carolina, we definitely can work on the tail of the dragon into this podcast as well. So let's make that happen. And then I know some other breweries up there that we can get the red carpet for. Let's go.
I've got a specially designed phone mount on the way for the ST. So,
all right.
From where?
Lethal Designs or something. They're killing it off. They 3D print this thing, and you pop a cover off behind your navigation screen.
Yeah, you can.
And then it mounts specially into there. And then I've already got a phone thing that screws into the special tripod type screw. Phone mounts to it, can see right over the dashboard, and it's even got a pocket for a draggie on it. So
Nice.
Well, I mean, I'm just throwing this
Nice.
out there, but I do plan on going to North Carolina for like Thanksgiving time, so maybe we can do a group trip up there. And my sisters live in, it's called Hendersonville, which is like 2 hours south of. Oh, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
It's 2 hours away from the Tail of the Dragon. So I mean, technically, we can make a trip up there, and just head over to the Tail of the Dragon one day. It'll be fun.
sure we can
It's a
figure
blast.
that one out. But
Oh,
I've
yeah.
done it in the Corvette,
But hey.
and I plan on
You
taking my
what?
Corvette up there. So
yeah, but well, all that being said, Carmelo,
Carmelo,
how's your
what are you
stuff
drinking?
going?
All right, so ironically, two talking points. One, I am drinking. It used to be considered a sour. They now call it a dessert beer. Basically, like Mike was referencing earlier, sours. The traditional sour is very tart, obviously sour. Then they started adding more fruit, maybe some more sucrose, and other ingredients to kind of balance it out, make it more sweet and less sour. And like I said, the dessert station here, corporate ladder, really good, a little thick, definitely better in draft. But you know, it's almost like ice cream, and it's weird. I either drink my beer kind of goes all over the place. I'll go for like a Stella or a Heineken, or I'll go to something dark like a Yingling or a Guinness. There's no real in between, so I don't.
Guinness is good.
Not the best one to quote any to make any determinations on what's good and what's not, because I'm all over the place. But I did notice, talking about the sours, is the thickness, because you can see sours, the sweeter they are, the thicker they are. When it's a thin sour or very translucent, it's going to be very tart, just from experience. And also, I was at Sierra Nevada earlier this year, and it was we didn't do the tour, unfortunately. They ended the tour early, but it was great. Just everything they have in their tap room was phenomenal.
So
Did you
at Sebring, we broke open.
Yep, yeah, Nashville.
Okay.
So at Sebring this past year, we broke open some of those dessert stations, and I am still delicious, yes, but I'm amazed at the body of it. Like, it literally feels like you're drinking something with like ice cream, like a float.
It's like a float. Yeah.
It's the weirdest. It's
Yeah.
the weirdest thing.
It's
Like,
weird.
and it's not off-putting somehow.
So
I don't know what it is.
Well,
Chilled.
here's my question, Carmelo.
Has to be
You said
chilled.
that was on draft at the
Yeah, so
brewery.
they had it on draft at the brewery, and it was good. I think Eric was able to get some maybe a different flavor.
I can't even imagine trying that on draft, because when we had it in a can, and granted, we were camping, so it was sitting in a cooler, or maybe in the trunk of a car, but like I can't imagine the consistency of that coming out of a draft faucet, like just shooting chunks of ice cream into the mug. Like I don't know, man.
I mean,
It's
it's
just
got to be running through a nitro tap, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's got
nitro. Well, I
gotta
mean,
be.
nitro would clog up with something like that. So the way nitros work, and there's a little tiny screen inside of it, and that's what creates that overcarbonization that you get from a nitro beer.
Okay.
There's two layers of a little tiny screen in there, and I can't even imagine that thing would pour. So I don't know. It's just wild. I would love to try it on draft.
Yeah.
Now we need to make a ride. It's like got an hour and a half from my house.
Yeah.
I was
Do a
actually
cruise
thinking
up there
of
one
being
day.
up there because they have like an orange creamsicle beer, which I was actually at number 3 one day, and Mark, which is Brandon's dad, owner of number 3, Mark actually gave me. He had a bottle of it, but now they have cans. But when he gave me the bottle to try, dude, it was so good. It literally tasted like an orange creamsicle. So now that I've seen that they actually have that beer back, like in a can, like I actually want to buy a 4-pack or probably 2 4-packs, honestly, because the beer's so good. Love Corporate Ladder.
So Nick, enough of us talking. How's your beer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the beer's good. I'm just kind of finally getting into the beer for the night. The margarita went down great, smooth. Again, awesome combination with that super sour stuff if you don't want the sugar and all that shit. But so back to the Masthead Brewing double IPA, double jalapeno. One of the things I didn't mention earlier is at 8.2%. So it's, double IPA kind of level of ABV. It is just wonderfully smooth and kind of, it's not super hoppy for a double IPA. And I'm sure that's being cut by the jalapeno that's in there as well. That flavor is kind of mingling in there. And again, the jalapeno is a phenomenal flavor. There's no heat, which is my only complaint. I'd love a little bit of heat in the back of the throat with one of these, but the flavor itself is great. It's like without the heat, biting into a fresh, not pickled jalapeno. I mean, it tastes like a fresh pepper, without being like disgustingly overpowering. You still get the hops under there and whatnot, but it's wild. I mean, I've had some jalapenos before. We've got a local brewery that was doing. I don't think they do it anymore. But they had their En Fuego, their spicy habanero or whatever it was, IPA at Fort Myers Brewing Company. I think one of the biggest in the area now. That was awesome. And hell, we were mixing it with their chocolate peanut butter porter, which was like a Mexican chocolate beer based at that point. But so I've had a bunch out there. Yeah, man, and there's had a little bit of heat to it, which was great. The jalapeno flavor in this is way more concentrated, way fresher. Just missing the heat at the end. At the end, Fuego had.
I will say that I'm very proud of you on your pairing with the margarita, because jalapeno and margarita go together very well.
I know.
Yeah.
I've had one or two of those in my life with some jalapeno.
Jalapeno margarita, yeah, it's a good one. So no, that was just a good solid combo there.
I might try that next time. Now that I have this stuff, the super sour, because there's no sweetness. It's just going to be the Cointreau or triple sec, whatever we use, tequila, and maybe muddle, or maybe just toss some slices of the fresh jalapeno in there. That I might try that sometime this week, maybe for next Sunday when we shoot our next one. I don't know.
So talking about beer with jalapenos, do you guys remember? I know, Mike, you do, but do you remember that Big Top actually had a jalapeno honey beer? It was called, what was it called again?
The Hotter Blonde.
Hotter Blonde Ale,
dude, that was phenomenal. It still is.
Honey jalapeno blonde. You know what? It's about time I get back up there and grab some of that. They don't send any out for distro much anymore, but maybe I'll have to run by there and grab some 4-packs.
I wanted to stop at Big Top today, but I didn't have time. If I had the time, I was stopping at Big Top on the way back. So one thing we did do today, just because it happened today, and we're talking about beer, I stopped again, and I got to call out these guys because they make awesome beer. Everyone I've had. Magnanimous Brewing in Tampa.
Oh, yeah.
Right down the street from Garage East Meadery, who unfortunately is closing in about 10 months. Their lease is going to be up, and they're going to back out, which really sucks. We didn't have time today to get back for this. I didn't have time to stop there and get some bottles of mead, but we hit Magnanimous Brewing up, and I learned something new today. They also have a location in Brandon, I think he said, so a little closer to us.
Ooh.
About Bradenton. Sorry, Bradenton.
Bradenton.
So similar area either way, but so about 30 minutes closer to us in the grand scheme. But so these guys, I had some kind of stout with maple and coffee added, which was phenomenal. Bought a bottle of it. That might be next week's beer. And we also picked up like 4 different IPAs. One is for the gentleman, 1 4-pack for the gentleman that gave me a 4-pack of this. Nice even trade there. He loves IPAs. He loves hazies. And every single IPA they make up there is a hazy IPA, to Mike's point earlier, being a little bit less bitter, a little smoother and stuff like that. Almost every hazy I've tried, I've loved. So these guys do all hazy IPAs. They're not like flavored or anything, but they all use different hops to get that different flavoring. They're not throwing extra ingredients into most of them. So just had to call those guys out. But I wish I had the time. I wanted to stop at Big Top. Phenomenal beers. We got to plan a trip for sure up there.
We need to head up there one day.
Well, it's funny if they've got one in Bradenton. Big Top's not that far away from there. I mean, you're talking. That's like the difference between Fort Myers and Cape Coral. Yeah. It's probably the difference between you're and my house next. So we'll be in good shape
as well.
Because Corporate Ladder is actually in Palmetto, which is literally 10-15 minutes north of Bradenton. So we can do Corporate Ladder and do the
basically work our way back down.
Yeah. That'd be a fun trip. We got to plan it out.
Yeah.
All right, so
for sure.
Want to ask you guys a question, which is actually something that I kind of mentioned, which is if you can pick one vehicle, and money's not an option. If you can pick one vehicle for you to own, it's obviously going to be a daily. What would it be?
Are we going to go in order here, or?
We can just do random. I mean, like anybody can just jump in. Mike,
Well,
you kind of
Eric,
started this question off.
what's yours since you're going?
Yeah, Eric, you what is your choice?
All right, my choice. Okay, so we can do mine, and then Mike, you can do yours. But I so based off of the vehicle that you said, and I kind of mentioned this earlier when we were talking offline. It's very similar to the vehicle that you said, but I would pick a CTSV station wagon with a manual transmission.
Okay.
Really?
Because
Okay.
I mean,
All
think
right.
about it. Think about it. It's a 4-door, it's a hatchback. It's got a manual transmission. It has an LS7, which you can modify. You can cam it out and listen to all the bald eagles. Which I'm all about LSs now. Now that I own my C6, but that's what I would pick. I mean, like it. Like I wish I could own them. They're kind of ridiculously priced right now because a station wagon
They
with
are.
manual transmission. They are stupid rare. I found one in all of the United States, and I think it was in, go figure, it was in Texas. And it was like 65 grand. I mean, like, dude, that's crazy to think that the car's
Okay, well,
and to think that that's the second gen of the CTSV, and it's an outdated model, but I mean, 65 grand for a station wagon with a manual transmission is a bit much, but it's kind of rare. So I feel like it's kind of worth it, but.
so of all cars though, what those are pretty old. I mean, those are pretty. When was the last time they made that? 07, 09, 2010, maybe. I don't know when they stopped making the CTSV, but the wagon specifically. But why not the what is it, the AT5V Blackwing?
Oh, the CT5.
CT5V
Yeah,
Blackwing.
yeah.
If you could,
I mean-
what money no option? Is it the hatch
honestly,
and the manual?
it is a hatch and a manual. I mean, like the CT5.
You can get the manual.
Well, you can get the
And
you can get the
yeah.
manual
get
with
it in
CT5V
manual.
too. Yeah.
You can. And don't get me wrong. I mean, like this year at Sebring, I was able to drive the CT4V Blackwing. It was only an auto, but I had a blast driving
Oh,
it.
I think it was fun though.
It was awesome.
Oh, I love that car.
Actually,
Oh.
the one thing that I find hilarious is that me and Nick were waiting to do the Corvette Corral this past year, and we were like, "Yo, like we have like an hour to kill. Like let's go drive the CT4 Blackwing for me to drive it." And we went to go drive it, and I think you went to turn 7 to go watch. I think what race is going on? I forgot what race it was. And you were waiting for it, and then there was like a CT4 Blackwing that just kind of zoomed right past you, and you're like, "Damn, that thing sounds good." And it was like me driving it, but it was fun. I mean, like it was a blast to drive, and I can imagine that the CT5 Blackwing is even more fun because it has more power.
Yeah.
But honestly, for me, the second gen CTSV is my favorite generation ever. It's like that one car for whatever reason is the one that I would get. I mean, like, yeah, it's
All right, Eric.
outdated.
I have to put you on the spot here. So you mentioned you can cam and you can do this. If you couldn't modify the vehicle you chose, what would you choose?
Oh, that's a good caveat.
I think I would still choose the CTSV.
You want?
I still would, because
Okay.
it's a cool
Really?
car. It's
Really?
a cool
Okay.
car.
It's dedication.
car.
Nah,
It is a
I'm
cool
okay
car.
with
It was a
I
cool
mean,
car.
it's a station wagon. It's a wagon, so it's long as hell, but it's still fun. You know, like it still has like what 500-600 horsepower. It still
That's
has
what
manual
she said.
transmission. It's still rear-wheel drive. It's still rear-wheel drive. So I feel like that would be a good choice. I still feel like it'll be a good choice.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. I guess I'll go now. If I had to choose one vehicle, and one vehicle's tough because you got to find something that's well rounded. Obviously, you could go super rare Uber hypercar, but I'm a dad. I got married, got 2 kids. It's gonna be tough to fit a bunch of kids in a hypercar. So I would probably say probably a brand new, if possible, since money is no option, Audi RS6. Avant, of course, because those are all wagons now. So sticking with the wagon vibe. What are they? 620 horsepower, something like that.
610, 620, something in there.
Something like that. Absurd. Twin turbo V8. I mean, shift amazing. They sound amazing. It's got all of the high end Audi things because you're basically top of the line. I mean, what is more top of the line than that other than a R8 from an Audi?
Right.
So yeah, that's what I would pick. I mean, they're gorgeous looking cars, especially with a nice set of wheels. Like I can't tell you how often on Instagram or something I'll see a modified RS6 just sitting on some gorgeous 3-piece wheels. I mean, it's just
HREs or something.
Oh my god, they just look amazing, and the wagons are awesome. Utilitarian. You can throw your kids, you can throw your stuff in the back, and you're good to go for a road trip. And that is a very good grand touring car. So if you do travel and you do drive around a lot, then all the comfort and amenities, and you can still go stupid fast. I don't know how you can modify an RS6.
I'm sure there's a tune, or
I'm sure, just like other Audis. I mean, I'm sure there's definitely a modification path that you can go down. Maybe not as extensive as a CTSV, but
you throw like an Armatrix exhaust on it, and now it sounds like absolutely demonic. I mean, it's just awesome.
Yep. Can I have the person that's going to buy that car for me install the Armatrix exhaust too? Because aren't they like $10,000 or something ridiculous?
The Armatrix aren't too bad. It's the Super Sprints that are absolutely outrageous. Armatrix is like four or five, I think.
God, it's exhaust though. It's still
you're talking about $130,000 plus car.
Yeah, Aren't they made out of? I'm pretty sure they're titanium too. Full titanium exhaust.
I think so. I
think they are.
The Super Sprints are. I want to say that the Armatrix are as well. But the Armatrix, what I like about them is their valve.
That's true. So you can still go semi-quiet, no droning on the highway and all that good noise. But all right, well that's what I would do. Yeah. Audi RS6. Carmelo, what you got?
So I'm still deciding. I'm between two cars, or let me rephrase that: two vehicles. Nick, let me throw it at you while I'm deciding.
All right. So I will be honest as well. I'm between two vehicles. However, they are, in essence, almost the same vehicle. And this is only because I've never looked at them side by side. And as Mike said, right, when we posed this question pre-podcast, we were talking about it, and we basically said, like, if you had to buy one vehicle in your current life situation, you still have the same responsibilities, right? To Mike's point, you'll find that between me, Mike, and Carmelo, we're all in the same situation. Married, 2 kids, almost all the same ages, roughly, within a year in either direction. The one thing that's a smidge different in my household is I have one large dog and one dog that's still a puppy that you popped his head up every now and then. He's going to be an XL breed. He's over 100 pounds at 11 months old. So I need that space in the rear as well, which is why I have my Explorer now and the wife's Bronco on order, because we need that room for the dog plus kids and all that kind of stuff. So, and now I'm used to the SUV. So this is where a wrench gets thrown in. And if I were to seriously have to look at this, I'd have to see them side by side and see the cargo space. So it comes down for me, the Audi RS6, obviously the Avant, because that's all they do in this country, and the Audi RS Q8. Because I do like the way it sits a little higher. It's the same drivetrain underneath. It's virtually a Lamborghini, but for $100,000 less, because it doesn't say Lamborghini, doesn't have the fancier seats or whatever. Like, I love the look of the Audis. People always the Urus. And people always talk about Mercedes, the E63 or whatever, AMG, and it does. It looks good. It sounds good. But I've had a couple Audis before. I love the look of it. I don't even care if my wife says they all look the same. I can't tell the difference. It's a family of vehicles. You look at one and you instantly know what it is. And the same with Mercedes, but I just love the damn things.
Well, let me ask you. You like you'd rather have the Q8 than the Lamborghini Urus? No money not being an issue. It's money so outlandish.
It is.
And
here's the thing.
It doesn't look that big.
They really don't.
It doesn't look
I
that
look
big.
at the two of them, and let's say money was an issue and you were going to order it. I could order them in the same colors with the Audi Select program or whatever they're calling it now. Like, it's just, I don't know, man. Don't get me wrong. I love the look of the Lamborghini. It's beautiful, but sometimes it can be almost a little too aggressively much.
Obnoxious.
For my daily drive or my thing I'm going to drive. You can hop in an RS Q8 and kinda look normal, right? Even the RS6 kinda look normal. If somebody doesn't know, if they don't know, what that
Yeah.
car is.
That's true.
It looks like a normal SUV or a normal wagon, right? We had this discussion at work because my boss has an RS7. He bought a CPO upgrade from his 14 to like a 21 a few months ago, and he talks about it. He's like, people just don't know. They don't know it's got 600 plus horsepower and it's this thing, and he rarely drives it. He drives his Bronco or his demo, but they don't know. So for that purpose, to be able to be a little bit more incognito is why I'd probably choose the Audi. Because at the end of the day, aside from some aesthetic flares, it's the same car.
Thing. Yeah.
It's the same car. So
Yep.
That's my reason.
Nice.
Carmelo?
All right, Carmelo. You got to decide one car.
I'm split too. So I'll kind of give a rundown like Nick. I at first was I love the RS6. I mean, any of the Audi RSs. The RS3 is something that at one point I was considering buying. I'd have to move.
I thought that was the next one. I really did.
I can't take money out of the retirement account just yet, or I can't reduce what I'm putting in the retirement account just yet. Yet, that's how I ended up with the Pro 4X. But anyway,
before you keep going, on the last podcast, which is 2 weeks ago, unfortunately, last week we had a technical the episode, but we talked about you getting a new car 2 weeks ago.
You guys made fun of me
earlier this week. What happened? You got a new car.
Yeah, so I ended up.
And you got a car that we never talked about. No one ever. You completely blindsided all of us with that.
So I think the only one out of all of us that would know was Nick, because and I mean I guess we were at what was it, at Sky Zone. We were talking about going to the Dragon, and while I love my '95 Mustang, I don't trust it making it up there. And I was talking with Nick about hey. What is a low end ST deal, like a Explorer ST deal lease, and there was nothing in the state under 60 grand, and I don't care per se about the all wheel drive and the bigger screen, and there was a lot of stuff I didn't care about on that car.
The bigger screen's not great, let me tell you from experience.
Well, yeah, and I mean one of the guys I work with has an XLT, a 21 or 22 XLT, and that smaller screen, it's functional, it's perfect. I do a lot of the driving when we go to lunch or run errands. So I'm used to that, and I kind of prefer that. I've always wanted a Taco, and I think you might know, Mike. For the longest time, I wanted a Tacoma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Until I sat in one.
You've talked.
About 2 weeks ago, right after the podcast, I drove a Frontier Pro 4X. Drove what is the bigger one? The Titan. Titan was too big for my needs. But if I want something if we go up to the Dragon, I want to be able to tow the Mustang up, bring it back, or even towards the end of the year, ideally I'll start doing track days, and that's obviously tentative. But I want to start doing, Sebring, Homestead, the infield, even maybe a trip to Road Atlanta. But I want to start doing that. I can't drive the car up and down and go, full tilt. So that's how I ended up with the Frontier. I drove it, really liked it, drove a couple other things, and ended up with that. I was talking with Nick and trying to make a deal happen, but I guess Ford has a recall or something on the 360 cameras, so a lot of their vehicles that I was looking at are out. The Bronco was something I was considering as well, and it doesn't tow enough. I need something that tows at least 5,000. The Frontier tows 6,700 pounds with the Pro 4X trim that I have.
No shit.
So that's more than what I need.
Wow.
When we go to Sebring, obviously we can throw whatever we want in the bed. And the cab is slightly bigger than the GTI, so I have, with the exclusion of the trunk, I have more space everywhere. Great features on it. I bought it from Cape Coral Nissan, also a Sutherland dealer, a Sutherland family-owned dealership. But it was great experience, straightforward, and yeah, I guess because I talked to Eric at number 3 about it. We were drinking one night, and it's like, yeah. But then I got into the GTI and was a little cramped, and I was like, yeah, let me go see what these trucks are like, and ended up with that.
Nice.
But so anyway, going back to the original question, I'm between two cars. I made my decision. The car that was in contention, well, it was technically two, would be either a Ford Raptor, an R, maybe not even an R, just a Raptor. It's one of the trucks that I've also talked with Nick about, where the RS3. When I get ready to move some money around and change how I'm, putting funds, saving funds, I can, him and I will talk. But initially, I was thinking one of the Raptors, either the Bronco Raptor or the Ford Raptor. But I also love a good hatchback, so something practical. And I think the Audi RS6 is a great car, but in my book, there's one car that's slightly better. And Nick and Eric, this is where I thought you were going, but you went Merca, which a big V8 Chevy. I get it, but it would be the Porsche Panamera Turbo S Sport Turismo.
Okay.
Good choice.
Same chassis. That's why I was asking earlier, Eric. It's a similar chassis, but it's just a little bit more refined, a little bit more unique, more sporty tuned, probably a harsher ride. 620 horsepower, and I love the.
What is that run? Is that running the twin turbo 4-liter V8?
I believe it is. Okay. It's probably running a variation.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it has like just under 200 mile an hour top speed, like 190s. It's a 4-liter twin turbo V8, so yeah, I'm going to assume that it's a variation.
It's probably the same damn thing.
Same thing. Yeah,
are they still? Are they still making those?
Yep.
Yeah.
You can order one of.
See, I didn't know if it was all. What is it? The new one, the Taycan.
No, that's a sister.
EV.
That's the EV version,
car.
but it's a sister.
Well, I knew it was the EV, but I didn't. I didn't know that they were still making the Panamera. I thought they replaced that. They're only going to do an EV.
The Taycan's smaller. The Panamera is still the big boy.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. All right. Nice.
So yeah.
Well, we're all kind of all the same realm.
Yeah. Yeah. You know
Big,
what shocks
big
me?
boy wagons.
Big
What
V8
shocks
wagon.
me is we made it this far into an episode about cars before we talked about Carmelo buying a brand new car in the last week. Like, how the hell does he pull that off?
That's true.
It was a good segue, though. We
It's because he bought a
segued
Nissan,
right
and
into
none
it.
of us expected a Nissan.
I know. Shocking.
I had an Xterra, and if that thing would have been a 4-wheel drive and not a 2-wheel drive, had it not settled, there's a small possibility I'd still have it. So,
I loved the Xterra when I was like a teenager,
find it
man. It
hard
was
to
just cool looking.
Yeah, they were cool looking.
I still find it hard to believe.
I mean, at the time they were so cheap. The car that I had, what did I have before? I had the Mini. I bought the Mini good. As Nick knows, and Eric, you might know, like when I buy cars, I tend to see what's on the lot the longest and negotiate that way because I know they're trying to get pushed. So I've always bought my cars well, and I bought the Mini very well. Traded out of a Jeep that I paid less than sticker for, got more than MSRP for as a trade-in, and then paid like $2 or $3 grand. Basically, paid wholesale for the Mini.
Yeah.
Drove it for 6 months, and then bought Xterra for essentially trade-in value. And I want to say it was a 2-year-old Xterra. It was a 2014 Xterra with like 20,000 miles, and I paid 18 for it. So had I have just bought the 4-wheel drive, it would another couple grand because I had one on the lot, and my wife talked me out of the 4-wheel drive.
Yeah.
And
How long ago was this?
this was 2015.
There's no way you'd still have that Xterra. We all know
so
that.
cheap.
Everyone on this podcast knows that.
It was so cheap. I'd be like Nick, where I'd be buying partner cars for my car, and I could afford multiple car payments, or I could live that life. But yeah, the payment on it was next to nothing because of how I bought the previous 2 cars. Yeah. And I just remember I was off-roading with a buddy, a local trail, got stuck, got pulled out, and realized, all right, I need something. I should have got the 4-wheel drive. Instant regrets. And
I
was like, all right,
I want to
time to
say
move on.
that I actually remembered you going like off-roading with that thing because you made a post about that like on Facebook like, years ago. But like, yeah, like shortly thereafter is like when you got rid of it.
yeah, I got stuck, and I got stuck twice on the same run. And could I have gotten better tires? Sure, but ultimately, I thought it
two-wheel
was like a
drive.
pre-runner build. It's 2-wheel drive.
Yeah.
And yeah, in Florida, we don't truly need 4-wheel drive, especially South Florida. But
Right.
Unless you're messing around in the mud.
Mm-hmm.
But
Speaking of that, we may need to run the wife's Bronco when it comes in up there with your guidance. Just for
Yeah,
fun.
the Yucca pens. I got a buddy that
Yeah,
run
I know a bunch of guys too up there. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's 20
so-
minutes from my house.
Yeah, before we
So
put some
on-
princess tires on it.
before we go open that Pandora's box of how we're going to ruin your wife's Bronco, I want to make a note to anybody that's been watching the podcast for this amount of time tonight. Leave a comment in the comments section, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Facebook, whatever, on what your number one car would be. No money being not being an option. Inserting a vehicle into your life right now, what would be your number one choice?
Yeah, post it in the comments.
And the kind of
See where it goes.
It could be as practical, like we kind of all went practical, like Nick said, basically our, with kids, families, whatever. But just because you got kids doesn't mean, you can't have
Yeah,
a
go crazy.
Zonda and use the wife's car.
Yeah, it's true.
Right? Like,
It's true.
and the only thing, I don't know if it was said, this would be a car that we would keep. Did we say this is a car we'd keep forever, or is this just
We
nobody
didn't.
right now?
I think it was implied. I think it was implied that this was like the one car that you're going to have forever, and it has to fit all of the criteria that you need it to do. So, but yeah,
I'm pretty sure you can still drop kids off at the fire station, right? Is that a option?
you know what? They can
I've
ride the
heard
bus too.
Not in Southwest Florida. We have a pretty terrible public transportation down here. We're not a city, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Luckily, there's Uber and Lyft, right?
That's
Yeah.
But
Anyways, so
all right.
that's all the time we have for today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. Remember to savor your brews and hit the road responsibly. Don't drink and drive. Also, don't forget to hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe. Cheers to booze and cars, and we'll see you guys next week. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
CBC.